I would love to welcome our incredible guest, Melanie Kinnaman, who led the charge as a tormented but resilient Pam. Tiffany Helm, the unforgettable Violet, whose iconic robot dance moves we'll never forget. Sloan, Jr. Hubbard, possibly the most quotable redneck in the franchise. And Tom Morga, the only actor to play Jason, Roy, Michael Myers, and more, a true horror legend. So. Yeah. Stay locked and loaded.
Gee, is this seat taken?
I'm sad you don't have your head today.
Oh.
Your second head.
Oh, there we go.
He can't bring it through customs, but you know. So we'll open the audience up to questions later. So if you guys do have any questions, just keep them handy. But first we'll get into it. So, pretty exciting movie. Let's start at the beginning. What was the casting process like for part 5? And were any of you guys fans before you joined the franchise?
Well, for me personally, I was actually, I got discovered by the casting directors. I was doing a showcase at the Fountain Theater in Hollywood where you do a little 5-minute scene. And I did it every week for 2 years. And that night, the casting directors were there for a movie called Repetition, which was Friday the 13th. And they asked me, after doing my little scene, if I could portray a hillbilly. Well, of course, you know? And so I was fortunate enough to, 2 days later, to go to the casting director, Fern Champion and Pamela Baster, and I picked up the sides, then got called in, and I met Danny Steinman, and I had my audition. Danny was the director. And then, luckily enough, I got called back the following day to meet Frank Mancuso Jr., who was the producer. And the rest is history. To this day, I'm still alive. It's amazing.
Well, I'm a stunt guy, and how many of you know Dick Warlock?
He came here.
Yeah, he was the stunt coordinator for Friday 13th Part 5, and we're both members of the Stuntman Association, and he was telling me one day, he said, you know, you might be a good guy for this movie we're going to do, and he said, I'll bring you to meet the director. And he had a couple other guys, and we all went in and walked like Jason, went to Steinman, and he said, okay, and then Warlock says, you know what, you go over to Steinman, he says, yeah, I think we're going to, okay, and then he says, we picked you.
That was easy. Yeah. Oh, you're in. Oh, by the way, you're a great looking group. Thanks for coming. Everybody's so good looking. I went into the audition. I didn't know anything about Friday the 13th. I soon become a horror fan, but at the time I did not like horror movies at all. I wouldn't go to them, so I knew nothing about it. And I went into the audition. I met everybody. It's a table like this, and it's all the big wigs that are involved. And I was in front of them. And Danny Steinman had me do a few scenes, and then Frank Mancuso Jr., who was the producer, said, I'd like to see you do an improvisation where you're being murdered. I said, okay, well, can I have a few minutes to prepare for that? Sure. So I go out the door like that. I get myself all ready. I come in, I kick the door open, and I do it somewhere. There was a big room. All I know is when I finished, I don't know how much time had passed because I was involved in what I was doing. I remember I was lying on the floor, and it's dead quiet, so I sat up and I saw them all sitting at the table like this. So I thought I either was terrible or I did okay, you know. So they talked to me for a little bit. I never told this part of the story, but I'm going to tell you this. I had makeup on, which, you know, we normally do. You go to auditions, and Frank Mancuso said, could you please go in the ladies' room and take off all your makeup? You're the first ones to hear this story. And I said, okay. I was ready to do anything. And I went in, and in the ladies' rooms, as you all know, they have that soap, right? That horrible, did that, and it was burning, and then I walked back in, and he looked at me, and they took a couple pictures. He said, okay, perfect, and I left. And I thought, I don't know about this. It was before cell phones. By the time I got home, there was a message on my answering machine. Remember answering machines? The machine, and it said, please call your agent. And I called them and they said, you got it. It was like 3 hours after I did the audition. I've never gotten a job that quickly in my life. Even a waitressing job, I never got that. So that's my story. But I knew nothing about what I was up for. It didn't really mean anything, you know. Yeah, the soap thing's scary, isn't it?
No, I actually, is that your, am I,
Yeah.
okay, because I want to, before I address that one, I really miss the audition process like that.
Yeah.
It was really amazing.
It was.
Because you could interact with the casting director, you could like use the room, and now, I mean, it's great that they do the self-tapes because you can do 30 of them, I know that, and get it exactly how you want, but of course everybody can get it exactly how they want, but you can't move from this little box here. And I remember the first time when I got back into the acting industry, and I went in for a Fargo audition, and I was told I was going to be meeting with a casting director, and I got totally thrown because they're like, yeah, there she is, and she was on a little screen. So it's like I was so, and this was like one of my first auditions back into the business. So I totally blew this audition because I used the room. This is how I have been schooled. So when she's talking about there, I was down on the floor. Yeah, we used to do that. I've had auditions where I'm rolling on the floor. I had this, I don't know if you all know Michael Bowen, who's one of the Carradine guys.
Yeah.
He does a lot of stuff. He told me about this. He almost got blacklisted from the business because he put like a hole, he punched the wall above the casting director's head. He put a hole in it. He got so into it. He's a wonderful actor. So sometimes we take it a little bit far, but I just heard that, and I know I digress here, but it's, business has really changed.
And what was your situation like when you auditioned for this?
For this? Well, that was, okay, so I'm
You used the room.
circling back. Yeah, I used the room. I was never told to like dance or exercise or any of that, but I don't even remember what the actual audition was. I just know that she was written as a Pat Benatar hard body type, because that was Hollywood's idea of punk rock, of goth, of alternative. They're just like, oh yeah, that like love is a battlefield thing she does, or whatever her current video was at that
And what
time.
did you wear?
I don't know, probably, I used to
You
make-
dressed as the character.
well, I dressed as
Yourself.
me. You know, when I would make up stories that I had gained weight for a role and stuff. And, you know, that obviously I didn't care, and I really didn't need to be apologizing for what I looked like. They loved me, and I was authentic, and I had booked a few roles. You again, same thing, where the authenticity is what sold them. They thought they knew what they wanted, but they really didn't understand what alternative was, so you can't really write a character if you don't know anything about it. But I don't remember any specifics, like what the scene was, or callback, or anything. It was kind of a foggy time for me. That's all I got to say about that. But yeah, and landed a freaking awesome job.
Cool. So when you say that, how much of your own inspiration went into playing the character of Violet, or was any of the kind of punk stuff written, or was that all you that brought that?
It was pretty much all me. I mean, the script was the script, but I mean, wardrobe took me out shopping, and I was given like carte blanche to pick what I wanted, basically. I had my hair, that was my hair, but it was a home job, so they sent me to a salon to get it done proper. And yeah, they let me do whatever, and like I got to kind of work with a makeup woman on how my makeup should be, because I had another role, again when I did You Again, they wanted to do kiss makeup on me. And I'm like, that's not what we do. That's not goth, that's not, but really that's what Hollywood saw as the alternative scene. So fortunately I was able to have a lot of autonomy when I did book roles.
That's cool. That's really funny. Ron, you mentioned that.
John wouldn't talk much. He stayed in character. He had really anything to do. But we're sitting around do you die? I go, I get decapitated while I'm riding my motorcycle. And just then, good old Tom walks by in costume. And he's carrying a machete, and he stops, and he looks at every single one of them. And it was like lighting a stick of dynamite. All of us are going, oh my God, we're the Friday the 13th! His fault. It was cool. It was really exciting. Just took it to that next level. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
Well, I knew the show was repetition, but I already knew that I was going to be a Jason because they wanted to see me as I would be as Jason. So when I went in and saw the director, they says, okay, can you act like Jason, walk like him, do this or do that? And I just did it, and it's fine. So I knew ahead of time, even though it's called repetition, that's common for scripts and new movies that they'll have a different name when you're starting production. And then I guess, and I can't really remember for sure that I came out and stared at each one, but I guess I must have.
You did. You figured this out, man.
That's something I do, I know.
He was probably just thinking at the time, now, what's for lunch? And we're like, oh my God.
What head do I get to chop?
They told me it was a Friday the 13th because, again, it meant nothing to me. So they told me up front, maybe because I was going to be the final girl, which also I didn't know what that meant. So John Shepard and I both knew that it was Friday the 13th. And we both separately, I didn't know what he had asked. I said, well, maybe I should see part 4 because I don't know anything about this series, and part 4 will at least tell me what I'm getting into. So they set up a special screening, and I'm watching this thing going, oh my God, I can't believe this is what I'm going to be doing. So it was very enlightening and kind of a little scary, that's what I was going to be doing, and survive all that, And in the script, there wasn't a whole lot written about Pam Roberts' description. It was a little. So they let me create the character that I thought she should be, and that was a lot of fun because you don't always get to do that when you're doing a movie. The script is the script, and depending on who the director is, sometimes they're really strict and you have to be exactly what's in the script. This one I got to be what my version of Pam Roberts was. So hopefully she was somebody you could relate to. That was my job, I thought, to make her likable, someone that the audiences would care about, because I always think the audience, to have the audience engaged in the movie, they have to relate to at least one character, don't you think? You have to like at least one character in the film. So you care about their story and what they're going to go through, and you care if they die or not.
You like me, didn't you?
No. Actually, he's loved. They love the killer, don't they? You're not so big, and you love the victims. You're not so big on the survivor.
We're glad you survived.
Absolutely.
So you guys talked about seeing Tom in the Jason mask. Did you guys have a lot of interaction with Tom during the filming, or did he kind of hide away to?
No, I don't think you and I even talked even at all. We have friends that
No, we're busy getting things together for what we're doing, and I wasn't going to interact with the cast with dialogue, so I didn't run lines or anything. I had to get ready to be Jason and kill him.
You didn't have the lines.
It worked out. Yeah, that's why they hire a stuntman. The scariest stuntman can ever do is dialogue. So anyway, we have to rig up the scenes we're going to do and the action we're going to do. So we're busy with that over here, and they're getting ready to get acting and stuff. So I didn't interact with them very much until I killed them.
Tom and I didn't even see each other, meet each other, or anything until we had all the. It's he and I alone for a lot of the movie and a lot of the work. We worked for probably 2 months, half of which he and I were alone with obviously the director and the crew, but the 2 actors were just us for weeks on end, right? All night, running, chasing, and they'd yell cut, and he would either go like prize fighters, we'd go to separate corners, like that, and I'd go over to a heater and a blanket, and you went in the corner somewhere, but then they'd say, again, action, and we'd be doing this intense stuff, and then cut, and we'd go to corners. This went on for a week and a half at least, every day. We never talked. At one point, he felt sorry for me, and you don't remember this. It was the chase, part of the chase scene, and it was brutal, and I'm crawling in the mud, and the rain machines, and it was so cold. I forget what happened, but you came over to me when they said cut, and I was laying on the ground, and you took the mask off, and I saw your face for the first time. I thought, that's a nice looking guy. That's not at all what I expected behind that mask. Yeah, that's the only time I saw any feeling from Tom.
Well,
Jason.
she was freezing, and I was feeling really sorry for her. I put a wetsuit on her in my overalls because I knew it was going to be drenching wet and cold. And they had a heater for her, so as soon as they said cut, they'd throw a blanket over her and take her to the heater. But I mean, she's freezing.
My clothes are soaking wet and see-through and horrible.
And so I was really feeling sorry for her.
Yeah, he did.
I could feel cold, but I'm wearing this wetsuit, trying to stay a little bit warmer than that. It was tough. When you see a film and it's raining, if it's real rain, you can't really see it. They have to take water towers and just make it a deluge before you see it on film. So it's really wet when you see
There,
it.
and the rain, the water's different. It's treated with something.
It's just
thick.
heavier
It almost
drops.
felt like they had mineral oil or something in it. And the drops were heavy, and it was just a lot of it. And picture this, girls. Not only are you got these machines, they're hosing me down. Some guy's coming, his sole job, his only job he's getting paid for is to hose me down. Yeah, I hated him. I hated that guy.
I hope that's in the credits, like guy with hose. Yeah, the hoser. Yeah, right into Canada.
Well, they wanted to put a tank of water for her to jump into and climb out each time, but they said, well, just use the hose.
They took this giant hose and I'm standing there and my agent, oh, this is another story no one knows. My agent came to visit that night. It was, I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock at night. She came and she started crying. She came into my trailer and started, I could cry now. Because I'm in the trailer shivering and I'm tearing up because I had enough of you. And she came to visit me. She had no idea. She picked the wrong day. And she's sitting in my trailer and she's crying. And I said, don't do that. You better leave because I've got 4 more nights of this. And then the guy comes and goes, okay, and they hose me down. She said, you're not getting enough money for this.
And what was it like working with Dick Warlock through those scenes?
Dick, the chainsaw scene, which is my favorite scene. Dick Warlock trained me because it was a real chainsaw if you don't know that. And it was a working chainsaw. And I'm little, and I picked up the chainsaw for rehearsal, and it was heavy, and then they turned it on. So now this thing's vibrating. I swear to God, it went from feeling like I had 30 pounds to like 100 pounds. And Dick is training me with this professional stuntman how to stage fight with a chainsaw, and he's got a machete. And they were great. They worked out with me and taught me everything. And then the last thing Dick Warlock said to me before they said action was, don't hurt my boy. Because you can. Because I have to throw the chainsaw. But it worked great, and he was great to me, and, you know, never done stunts before, and now I'm working with machinery. You know, power tools. But it's my favorite scene.
It was fun.
Awesome. Speaking of stunts, I know lots of your motorcycle scenes and your decapitation scene. Did you do your own stunts, and how was that scene filmed?
Well, it was interesting because I had Gene Hargrove, right? Hartland. So Gene Hartland, who has passed away since. Great body double. He did the porch scene because, first of all, they wouldn't let me do that even if I could. I really would get decapitated. But so it was interesting because Gene LaBelle, who was a wrestler, right? Yeah.
He was the toughest man in the world.
He was one who had to watch me ride the bike initially when I got on the set. And then Gene Hartline was, he was my body double, and he was great. So that part was set up, but I still had to ride the bike, and they had a camera mounted on the handlebars. And Danny Steinman, the director, said to me, "This camera's $50,000. You drop the bike, I really will kill you." And so, now I'm trying to do what I got to do, and I'm thinking about this darn camera, and so it was pretty cool.
So you were really screaming.
I was really screaming. I screamed so much that night that thank God I didn't have a scene the next day. I actually lost my voice totally.
And that was just fear of dropping that
Dropping that camera. So, it was interesting. They had put me in a harness. It's called a film reversal, where I had to go from my to a normal look. And then they reverse it, going from a normal look to a Well, they had me in the harness, and they actually yanked me off the bike. Of course, none of this is in the movie. It wasn't, you see just for a moment, the head hit the ground, that was it. But in the original take, it was all this going on, and the head hits the ground, rolls down a hill, and looks at the camera. And that didn't pass the censors. Back then. Yep. It was freaky.
You and Ethel were like the funniest duo ever. How much of that what did you base your character off of?
Well, for me, I thought of a friend of my brother's who was really just this goofy idiot. And I thought, I can do that. And it just kind of got carried away from there. And Carol, God bless her, she even brought out more, because when you play off of a wonderful actor or actress, it just makes you better. They just take you up. And so Carol and I had so much fun together, and there's no limits to fun. And I mean, it took everything for me not to crowd watching her do her thing with the chicken and everything. I mean, it was like, we rehearsed, and we had a baseline of dialogue, but Danny said, do whatever you guys want to do, just kind of hit these marks, just kind of make it all work, and it was just, she was a riot. I mean, it was the best, the best.
Speaking of legendary scenes, your dance scene, did you make that up yourself, or was it choreographed?
And did you pick the soundtrack for it as well?
Yep. Yeah, that was a dance that I went to a club, and they would have this like alternative wave night or whatever. And there were a few of us who did that particular dance to, like, we had certain songs, there was a podium, and like that was like people would move, and we could do our thing. It was actually I learned it because there was a guy that I was very enamored with who did that dance to Send Me an Angel by Real Life. Guy turned out to be a real jerk. He moved in with me later, and he was a horrible, horrible human being. And I found out from a friend of mine that he kind of got his just desserts. That's another story. His name was Jason, by the way.
Nice.
So I saw Jason doing this dance. I'm like, I want to learn to do that. So I would practice, and I got it. So I had been doing that dance for a while, and I didn't really know anything else. So when they changed it from exercising in my room to dancing, again, I don't think Violet would be exercising in her room, dancing. And you can see initially when I'm doing like this weird like sway thing, because I was like, okay, this must be what they want, and forgetting again the autonomy that they gave me, and I don't even know how, if I like did that, the robot, whatever it was, I don't know, mime, call it what you want, and they saw me do it, or I don't even know how that transpired, but they really liked it. That was, so we were able to do that. I think it was because they were going to be rolling for a while, and I had to dance, and I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? Like, I don't know how to do really anything else. So they really liked that. And as far as the music, I believe that was post that I brought that in, because the initial songs that I brought into them, they couldn't use. It was like Bauhaus and Sisters of Mercy and Susie and the Banshees, and they're like, yeah, we cannot afford those songs. I couldn't even die in front of Sid Vicious for financial reasons. So I think I brought the pseudo echo to them, and because nobody had heard of him, it was one of the dance tracks that I danced to, and they loved it, and it was available. So that's kind of how that one all transpired.
And I think it's the most perfect song for any Friday the 13th movie.
Absolutely.
That song.
Me too.
Just my
It just
opinion.
worked.
It worked.
That was movie magic. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like sometimes, and that's the coolest thing about film, is when you do get in that flow and you have all the moving parts of a film and all the people that are working on it, and when it all comes together, it's really cool. I mean, and sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, it's a really perfectly choreographed thing when a film production flows like that.
Great choice. What was it like filming your death scene, and how did you feel about them changing things after the fact?
I think I was tired. I think we went into overtime that night, and I just wanted to go home. I was really late. But it's, I mean, I was looking forward actually to the kill, the original kill. I'm like, oh, this is kind of badass. Like I was, I had that makeup on, and I kept saying, hey, check this out. I'm doing an ad for Monty tampons. And it was so tasteless, isn't it? Violet. And they said it wouldn't get past the ratings. It would be an X rating, just like the head thing. So again, if that was done today, I'd be like, yeah, whatever, more blood, more gore. So I mean, it didn't bother me. It's kind of silly when I see the pillow that they use for my stomach, right? I mean, that's, you work with what you have. So, and it was fun. I do have regrets about how I was choked, because it's like I watched that, I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be totally different if I was like being pulled up on my neck. It's like, I don't know, I've grown a lot as an actress since then, so there's a lot of things I look at that I'm like, yeah, I could have done that a lot better. But it is what it is. I think it's a great film. Loved watching the screening the other day, and the new revamped version. It's funny. Like good funny.
Yeah.
Like before I said it was funny, not good funny, and now I'm like, no, that's like some comedy gold there. I'm hitting all the tropes. Yeah, I'm impressed. I was happy to be part of that project.
Speaking of funny, was there any pranks or goofiness that happened on set at any point?
Not on my end. John Shepard and I stayed into our character the whole time. So I'm only working with John. I work with these guys, I call them the kids, but we didn't have any interaction. I think they had a lot of pranks and stuff going on, but John Shepard, Tom and I were in a whole different movie, if you know what I mean, from what they were all doing. So I don't have any stories about pranks.
I didn't really have pranks. I think Dick Warlock, the stunt coordinator, was training John Shepard and I to do our fight scene. Well, in training, Dick actually connected and knocked me down, which I think John learned that because he did the same thing in the movie. It wasn't a prank. It sure looked real, felt real, but bringing it up to present day, I saw Dick at a convention and I said, hey man, you knocked me out. And he go, oh, thank you. I go, no, you knocked me out. And we had this great camaraderie at that moment. And he grabbed my head. I usually bring the head to the convention, but I couldn't get it through custom. He grabbed it and he goes, oh, that's right, I already did this once. So, great personality. He's awesome. But that's the only thing I really...
You probably have. You with the girls have a bunch of pranks. Right?
Yeah, the only thing I really remember though is Tom spooking Juliet and myself in the Orange Grove.
That's funny.
Yeah, like hid there, and we were going through the Orange Grove, and yeah, and it was dark and it was scary. And, short
I
lived.
was
Yeah.
trying to stay in character.
Absolutely. It worked, but I believe that might have been used more than once. So again, I don't remember a lot of the specifics from the job, but I do remember that.
I do have a Polaroid of Tiff and Shavar
With the head.
with holding my head and playing with it.
I think we just held it.
I think Shavar was like sticking his finger in my mouth. He was a kid, you know, poking my nose.
Shooting some hoops.
Yeah, that's it.
Tom, how did you differentiate from playing scenes with Jason and from playing Roy in disguise? And spoiler alert if you don't know. You're in the wrong panel.
No different at all.
No? Yeah.
I was playing Jason.
Yeah.
You can call him anything you want. But, you know, Jason's an imaginary character, and Roy's double was an imaginary character, and they were the killers. So that's what I did. I got on a mask and walked around and did some action. And it's, you know, as a stuntman, that's what we do. So it wasn't like it was a hard thing to get to. I did a lot of fights and done weapons before, and I just was Jason.
What do you think it takes to be a final girl? What makes a good final girl?
Survival.
That's a good question. There you go, survival. I think that you have to, exactly that, be a survivor. I've always been a survivor from a young age. I won't get into my childhood, but, so I already came with the strength that I had from the time I was young. And I used that. As actually all actors, what we have to go through just in the audition process takes a lot of strength, courage, and self-confidence. So I had that anyway. And I brought that to Pam, and I think that makes a good final girl. First of all, be relatable, but you have to exude some kind of self-confidence, even in the face of something you think you can never overcome. You still have to have a feeling in you that you can do this. So I think that's a good final girl. Also, if you have a decent scream, that's good too. Because I've always felt that the scream tells the whole story. Her scream tells the whole story of what she's going through. So.
Definitely. If anyone has questions, I'm going to open up the floor too, if you wanted to put up your hand.
And just a little aside, Shavar Ross had the best scream in the whole movie.
Oh, yeah. He still does.
He should have been the final girl.
Any questions yet? Yeah.
Did you keep anything from the set for your wardrobes from the movie?
I kept the whole out. They gave it to me because it was unusable. It was either torn or posed down, muddy. I kept the boots. I kept the whole thing. Yeah, and the pink sweater, believe it or not. That damn pink sweater, which I hated, I have.
Actually, when you ask about the mask or the weapons, when you're doing a movie, and if you're a producer, and you're the director, and you know you've done your principal photography, there's always going to be pickups. There's always going to be something else you're going to have to shoot to fill in what you need to do. So you never get to keep any of the props, anything like a mask or the weapons that they use to get a match. Unless you're really clever, like Kane, who's managed somehow or
He
another.
steals stuff.
You got a mask.
He steals stuff.
Well, what he did is get a mask just like it, and the last night, he wore the one he bought.
Yeah.
But anyway, for the most part, you know, you don't get to keep stuff. And you really don't want to try to, because you'd like to work at the end, you know. You don't want to get blackballed.
And Paramount was really strict. They would come on the set, a rep from the company would come and make sure they had everything itemized and where it was going. They let me keep the outfit because I'm sure they had no use for it.
Yeah, which is, yeah.
I got a couple things though from it. I got the belt that I was wearing at the breakfast scene. I wanted the gray dress. That was like my uniform. And I couldn't get the gray dress. Even when I was like, even ask them about it, like, you know, like, what the hell is that gray dress? But the belt, and there was something else. I think I got boots that I had, like some other breakfast scene stuff, which is long gone, sadly. I do wrong.
But they don't let you keep important props like, you know, machete, anything like that.
And this was buyback stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't even given stuff. Like, I can buy it back.
Well, I was real lucky, but I wasn't able to take the head home with me after this because of all the. I was on an audition 2 years later at Las Palmas Studios for a game show, and I saw a sign that said real effects. I was, wow, those are the guys that made my head. So I thought, oh. maybe I can buy it. So I knock on the door and the guy answers, and I said, yeah, I'm Ron Sloan, and I did a movie called Friday the 13th Part 5, and you guys made my head, and I was just wondering if you still had it, and could I buy it? And he goes, come with me. I follow him. It was like going to Costco for horror. I mean, we're talking, there's shelves of body parts and dinosaurs. I mean, just gore everywhere. He gets on one of those ladders like at Home Depot, you know? He goes to the top, and I look, and there's my head sitting on the top of the shelf next to Sylvester Stallone. It's like in alphabetical order from Rambo. And I'm like, look at it, oh my God. He takes it, he comes out and goes, I gotta apologize. Your head's been working more than you have. In fact, we shot you in the head last weekend. And I wish it was here, I could turn around. Half of that head is blown out in the back. So through that flight cap, the head is like, yeah. And he takes it, he puts it in a bag, he gives it to me. He goes, here, take it, man, you deserve it. I'm like, thank you. So I'm leaving, and I'm walking out, and I got my head in a bag, and I look, and there's Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm like, oh my God, I want to meet him, and I'm like, dude, you have a head in a bag? In a sense, it's kind of like stolen. I mean, the guy gave it to you, but and I'm like, I just kept walking. And here's Arnold in a big terry cloth bathrobe, smoking a cigar. I think he was shooting True Lies. Nice. And I'm like, oh my God, what a great day.
That is the best story.
You tell him, I'll be back.
I'll be back, Arnold.
I do have one story. It's from Star Trek, though. When I was doing, I did a lot of Star Treks, and they made a cast of my head once because they did the Klingon pieces that they put on your head, so they took your mask. And it was at Paramount, and of course they took it, and it was gone, and never thought about it again. And then one day, years later, I get a call, and yeah, this is the prop department. We're seeing, are you Tom? Yeah. I said, well, we have your head. Well, what's that? Well, you see, there was one of the people working the property was stealing furniture and stuff, and he had all wardrobes, all the stuff from the company, and couches and tables that he'd taken, and we caught him, and we went over there, we arrested him, and took all his stuff back, and your head was there. Do you want it? Okay. So I have a head at my house.
That's awesome.
You guys got to get them together for a hangout.
That's it.
When the film first came out, I know it was very divisive. How did you all feel about the copycat killer angle?
It meant nothing to me, because again, I didn't know that Jason was so important. So I didn't know about the problem with it being a copycat until I went to conventions, and the fans were very angry that it was not Jason. So, but I say to them, I still say this, it was Jason to me.
Yeah.
He was chasing me, I was running for my life to save my life and to save their lives, and it was Jason.
Yeah, this time makes a difference, because when it first came out, of course, you're not the real guy. You don't like the movie. It seems silly. It's a good movie, and Jason is as imaginary as Roy. So, but anyway, after people saw numerous sequels and other films, they get back to seeing this, and this one was entertaining. It had good comedy, and had great kills, had a great Jason, right?
Yeah.
So we appreciate it, and we've had more people in the last few years come and say, I really like 5.
I've grown to love
It's
Part
changed around quite a bit, and thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I personally, maybe it was just me, because I didn't know the difference, really. I mean, I saw the first Friday the 13th, okay, Jason. But, in looking at our film, well, wait a minute, what are they talking about, copycat? There was a Jason in the grave with the right mask. Wasn't that Jason? No, I guess not. I'm not sure. And then you have, in your room, Jasons. And, I mean, there was a couple of different Jasons. So, okay, yes, Roy was a copycat killer, but Jason, to me, in my mind at that time, he was in the movie, so what's everybody bitching about? Come on, move on. Great film, a lot of fun, and, you know, from there, when you went into other Friday the 13th films, so they're kind of far-fetched, you know? I mean, there's some of them that you're like, okay. But if you take the whole franchise as a whole, it's cool. I mean, it's really good.
Yeah, when they first said that you weren't really Jason, I said, well, I was in all the flashbacks.
That's, yeah.
Come on.
Isn't that real, Jason? Well, what do you guys think?
Well, and I also think part 1 through 5 had the same kind of feeling, the vibe, there's a certain look about them. After 5, they changed. So I think we were in the same feeling, you know, quality of the first one. You know, they kept it consistent, 2, 3, 4. So I think they did a great job. I think it was very interesting and courageous of them to try something different for part 5.
In the beginning.
In the beginning. It was going to go into 6 that way. But, you know, I just think it's kind of nice to step out of the formula, try something different, and it may have worked, it may not have. But at least you tried something different.
It works now. You guys made it work.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the fans, and we thank all of you endlessly for coming and being interested in the film, being interested in us as people, because without you, there would be no continuity, and there'd be no interest, and we wouldn't even be here. Dan would not have us here. It's all
As
about
he
the
scratches
fans.
his back, like a bear.
That's not Dan, he's a copycat Dan.
Does anyone else have any crowd questions? Yeah, you.
So when you first made the film and it finished, do you have any idea 40 years later you'd still be talking about it?
No,
Not
absolutely not.
zero.
We're stunned well, I'll speak for myself. I'm stunned every year when I go to shows or meet people just anywhere, and they're so interested and they're complimentary of characters in the movie or the whole franchise itself. And we're just so grateful, and it's a surprise.
It's amazing when you see somebody say, yeah, my dad or my mom showed me these movies and now I'm a fan. It's generational.
Yeah, the people that come to see us at the tables, you know, for signing, it's multi-generational. They bring their
Amazing.
grandchildren, their great-grandchildren.
We've all done movies, lots of different films and shows and TV things, and we think, oh, this is going to be really great. But you'll never know until the audience decides what they like. So I've done movies I thought, well, this is going to be a great hit. They came. And other movies that you have no idea what's going on. This has got to be stupid. I did Ghostbusters, and we had no idea what they were doing because they were using computer generation, and they're going to make ghosts on the walls, and everybody's looking at nothing. This is going to be dumb. I remember the stunt coordinator told us, he said, guys, get together. We get your check to cash them right away, okay?
Well, that's true on this film, on Friday the 13th. I used to run it with my check. I did. It's terrible to say. Because in those days, they paid us, it was a check. And the check would go to your agent. My agent would call me and say, I've got you. I would run down there, cash it right away.
Any other questions from the crowd yet?
Did you say, Tom, how you also did the Michael Myers and Leatherface? How you got those roles?
Well, just good fortune. I'm a member of the Stuntman Association, and Dick Warlock was a member, and so was Fred Lerner, and they were both coordinators. Fred Lerner was a coordinator on Halloween 4. I'm the right height, and I've worked with the guys before, and I have a little bit of ability with weapons and action, and they both at that, when they're trying to cast the guy, they said, well, why not bring you and let them see you too? And so I was just real good, just dumb luck, fortunate. So what more can you say?
Yeah, a lot of it is dumb luck in show
yeah.
business.
You know,
I mean, yeah.
yeah, and a lot of times to have good luck, you have to be everywhere all the time. So you're always hustling, you're always seeing people, you're always trying to check something out. So you are getting some luck that you created.
In my case, it was luck also because I found out after the fact that they had been looking for Pam Roberts' character, New York, Chicago, and LA. And they did New York first, Chicago, and then LA. And I wasn't the first person they had seen. They'd seen quite a few, and thank God I didn't know that. But so that's I mean, you have to have the ability, but luck plays a big part. Because come on, I walked in the room and I got it. it's just life.
Water.
You.
In the 80s, the horror movies, there's a lot of, it's kind of built around like horror, slash, and then like nudity. So, do you get approached with the option of being nudity, or do you get paid more to do it? Or do they approach you?
That's two questions. Well, I got lucky with none of my stuff. I've done movies where the nudity was required for a certain role, and you try to negotiate out of it and not do it, or you try to limit it, it's only this much nudity. Yes, you do get paid more for it. It's not fun. And this, I'm the lucky one. I was thrilled. There's no nudity for Pam Roberts at all.
I can address also the nudity thing, because I have specific experience to that. So when I did Reform School Girls, nudity was required. And so you sign the contract, you know full well that nudity is required. So when we actually shot, they were going to have, there's the obligatory shower scene. I don't know if you've seen the film. And our director was like, yeah, it was going to be me, Wendy, and Darcy. We were the three baddies. And I want you're going to saunter by, and the camera's going to pan down. And at the time, like again, so Darcy was more probably that Pat Benatar hard body type that originally Friday the 13th wanted. She was slim and tan and built. Wendy, of course, we all know what Wendy looks like. She's got legs up to here and tan, and I was a little bit overweight, and I was a goth kid. I was very pale. And I'm like, I'm really going to stand out. I mean, that's the thing about photography. Your eye goes to the whitest, biggest thing ever. So I'm just like, can we change the shot? Like, I'm not saying I'm not going to be in the scene, but can we just change the shot a little bit? Because if I'm next to the both of them, I'm going to feel really kind of uncomfortable. Nope. You're going to saunter by, and we're going to pan down. And I was like, it's the worst. Okay. So I left, and I called SAG. And I'm like, so what? Tell me about the nudity clause. They said, you can back out of the nudity clause at any time except for after it is shot. And now that's even changed. Now you can back out of it after it's shot. Apparently I've heard that. I don't know that for sure. So my best friend was working on the set as well as background. And she loved to take off her clothes in public. She used to have her nipples painted with like fishnets on, and we'd go to the grocery store before clubs. And like, you know, everyone's like, and she'd be like, what the fuck are you looking at? She was actually the dead girl in River's Edge. Oh. So she was very comfortable with her body and nudity. I was not. So I actually told the director, I'm like, she can come in for me and double for me. So she actually did. She was in the shower scene. She didn't care. She's like, here we go. And I was fired. He's like, you're done. And so I'm not in the scene where they're out doing the work, the whatever the jail work is, prison work, and I'm not in the very end when they're finally rioting. And I had that kind of come back on me when I went for an audition for New World much later, and all the bigwigs were there, and they just like sat through my audition like this. And I was like, oh, reform. I'll see myself. But interestingly, because with all the Me Too stuff and all that, it was never like that. The director and I just had a difference of opinion. We both were very firm in our beliefs, and actually the director reached out to me last year, brother, right, who was in film, and we have made amends to each other. It was just like young, but it was a whole thing, and there were a lot of people who think that I was like a victim or something, and I'm like, I wasn't a victim. Like, I signed up for it, but it was a difference of opinion. So that's the whole nudity thing. But I wasn't making any more money for taking off my clothes, nor were any of the girls in that shower.
I got paid not to take off my clothes.
You know, there's a lot of peer pressure, I think, with that. And you know, you're supposed to do this, and it's expected, and you're, well, do I need to, really, you know? And then if they ask you, you say, well, and everybody looks like, what's the matter with you? I was doing, anybody see The Stuntman with Peter O'Toole?
Yes, I love that film.
I was doubling for the guy who did the fall off the tower, where he breaks through the thing and falls down. He was supposed to be the stunt coordinator, and Steve Railsback is the character who's in this film company when they're shooting, and he's hiding out from the police, so they hire him to be a stunt guy. Well, he's up in the tower at this Coronado Hotel, and he breaks through the rail and falls down, 50 feet into this airbag. And it was kind of a neat scene because in the sense that you get to see the stunt guy fall and you get to see where he lands in this airbag. And it was kind of a tricky thing, but I did the fall. And it was just at the end of the day, the last thing we were going to do. And they says, okay, I get out of the airbag, everybody's going, good job, that was great, man. Thanks, I felt really great. That is a neat stunt. And then the AD comes up, he says, okay, tomorrow we're doing the brothel scene. Anybody have objections here to showing their backside? Oh, sure, me, and I raised my hand, and everybody else is going, well, and she says, okay, Tom, you'll go home tomorrow, and everybody dropped their hands. So I was out of the movie, but it never happened. Everybody was wearing something. But just the idea is that, okay, everybody's going to be showing the backside, right? No problem with that. But it's that peer pressure thing, and it can happen. And everybody else is going, well, and she says, okay, Tom, you'll go home tomorrow, and everybody dropped their hands. So I was out of the movie, but it never happened. Everybody was wearing something. But just the idea is that, okay, everybody's going to be showing the backside, right? No problem with that. But it's that peer pressure thing, and it can happen.
I know we're going to wrap up in a few minutes here, but does anyone have anything they want to plug, promote, upcoming appearances, movies?
I just shot a film in LA with my mom. Jim the Lifetime, her buddy, for those of you who don't
I
know.
love Brooke Bundy.
She's awesome.
I grew up with Brooke Bundy watching her on TV.
I love her. So we just shot Catnip. We're calling it Gremlins for Grown-Ups. And it's Chevy Chase, Bruce Dern, Joey Lauren Adams, Jeffrey Arend. And it is an apartment full of neighbors that are being terrorized by killer cats on Christmas Eve. We are using all practical effects. It was very interesting. We had 3 cast members in their 80s. We had 2 minors on set. We had cats, we had a dog, and we had rats. So it was a wild shoot. And we cannot wait. Should be out in Christmas. Please keep an eye out. And we're also all over socials right now, so you can look us up. So that's my
And it's
plug.
called Catnip.
Catnip.
That's great. I can't talk a lot about this one, but I'm doing a movie in March of 2026 with Bradley Cooper. They made me sign an NDA. I can tell you that I play a bad guy, so I'm kind of excited about it. Really, it's a great cast. And we're shooting in almost my hometown, New York City, so I'm thrilled about that. And I also signed on to do a new horror film. That is shooting the end of this year. So I can talk about that if you follow any of social media stuff. That I'll be able to talk about. And I'm appearing, if you watch social media, like all of us, we're all on, except for Tom, he's too important to be on social media. We all post, the conventions, what cities we're going to be in, we're all going to be in different cities and stuff. So.
Well, I have nothing really coming up.
Yes, you do.
And I don't do social media because I have a Facebook that I see, every couple of months I'll look at it. I just really don't involve myself in that very much. But
he has a lot of shows.
Well, yeah, but what do you have?
I can't totally talk about it, but I was just killed by a werewolf. My little head got stomped by a werewolf, but there's a benefit to that because I do have an identical twin in the film who comes back in the sequel. I can't even talk about the title. I'm sworn to secrecy, which is
repetition.
Dang it, Tom. It's fun getting killed by a werewolf.
Oh, I can say in the horror movie that I just got, that we're shooting later this year, I am playing the lead female, and my love interest, the male character, is Doug Bradley. Won't that be fun? I've never met him, and apparently we're madly in love, so it'll be interesting. Me and Doug Bradley.
He's a nice guy.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
He's great.
afraid because he looks scary.
Aw. Well, thanks everyone for joining this panel, and thank you again to the amazing cast.
Should we stand up for you?
Yeah, maybe.
Here we go.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming. Thank you.
Thank you guys, appreciate you.